place project. As everybody's getting settled in the room, let me welcome you back also, those of you joining us online. One more hint for those watching online, feel free to post any questions or comments in the chat. We can actually see the chat on the stage. So also for the panel members, feel free to post your questions if you're joining us online. Now we have the solution sessions, and where we'll give you examples from our pilot regions. And first up is Germany. Stefan Drexlmeier, he will talk about local biomass district heating networks. And Stefan is the head of the Office of Energiewende Oberland. He's the chairman of EWO Eco Competence Center Energy and member of the board of directors of the Bavarian energy agencies. Stefan, welcome. We look forward to your examples from Germany.
Thank you very much, Karina, and thank you very much, everyone, for giving us the honor to present what we came up with as a collective action in the project Replace. And also, it's a big honor for me to be able to present this because our team, Heike, Andreas, Felix, and Conny at Energiewende Oberland, we worked hard, I think, during the last 3.5 years to actually push this heating market towards a renewable direction. And I thought it was also interesting that when we started out in 2019, maybe a lot of us were not thinking about the big hype that we're going to encounter and the huge demand when it comes to energy consultancy in our region, but also probably across Europe. And therefore, I'm very excited to share with you one solution that we came up with. And I want to show you a little bit about our region. And I hope if the slides are working. Is that going to work? Is that going to happen? Here we go. Yes. So in our region, it is mostly about biomass because we have a strong history in using biomass in our region. It's, a lot of buildings are heated with biomass. And on the other hand, district heating is also not a new topic, of course, but I have the feeling that it differs very much from region to region if district heatings are in place, because you need local actors, and that's pretty much what I'm going to focus on. We heard a lot about technologies this morning. Maybe we also have to incorporate or take into account that there's actual human beings living in those houses and that they also have certain needs. And just a brief description of our region. Our region is based south of Munich. We have approximately 440,000 inhabitants in our region, Oberland. We have 4 administrative districts, 94 municipalities. It's very much rural characterized, and it is very attractive to live there, but also very expensive. So that means if you decide on your heating system, it becomes part of a big investment. So average house, one house would be like 1 million euros in our region. So you kind of like, even though if you're able to afford 1 million, you have to take into account the cost for the heating system. And we have a study in 2019. We can say that we had approximately 107,000 domestic houses in the region. About 48% of them heated with oil, and 26 with gas, and then 28 about renewable. So you see the big elephant in the room, and that was the easy solution of the past, and let's see what we can do in the future. What we did then is we did like scenarios. Within the project Replace, we imagined, okay, maybe we have a moderate scenario, which says, okay, we have to replace 4% of all the oil heatings in the region every year. So that accounts to 1,900 heating systems a year that have to be replaced in this region. And we imagined, okay, we distribute the replacements in the region. So, of course, not everything is going to be renewable right away in the moderate scenario. And so you can see here what we came up with. And, of course, Nobody knows exactly, but it was a pretty good guess. And then we saw what the energy system or the heating system in the future would be like. And there it was pretty interesting that even though if we replaced 4% of all the oil heatings, we still have a remaining 24% of oil heating systems in the year 2035 in our region. And we came up with a second scenario asking for more ambitious goals. And we replaced 4% of all the systems still, but we included gas and also electrical heating systems. And if we try to assume that system, then we still have a remaining 20% oil and 11% gas in the system. So that is the elephant in the room that we have to address, even like on European level. That is still something that will remain because those heating systems are in place now or will be running until 2035. So I think that was my sign to actually go to the dilemma that we're talking about. We have, in Germany, we had a very attractive subsidy scheme that came into place in 2020. So there was already a ramping up market and there was a big demand. Oh, wow, what should I do? Maybe I should take advantage of those subsidies. But then if you keep those numbers in mind, we had in a moderate scenario 1,900, or in an ambitious scenario 3,400 systems that had to be replaced. And we also have a study that was conducted by the IFO Institute in our region, which stated that we would be missing 1,261 to 2,200 skilled workers in the region to actually do those replacements. So it doesn't really help, pushing always towards renewable if then the people are frustrated because they don't get the solution by the market. So in this case, what we kind of thought of is, even some years ago, that maybe district heatings could actually be one big leverage to install a lot of systems at once in a lot of houses. And let's see. On the next slide. Do you have any technical problems? I go back and forth and I'm not seeing my slides. Can I have a sign maybe? Is that? Ah, okay. So let's see. And still not working. I think I sent more slides, but it's okay. I could also talk about this, but it's always nice to have some pictures as well. Maybe you can give me a sign. I don't see any changes yet. Well, usually we would open a barrel of beer, but I have a picture of this later. So we're getting a new presentation maybe. And it's not coming yet. I'll just wait a little moment. It's coming back.
Just at the worst moment when we were going to talk about the solutions
Yes.
to all our problems, we have a breakdown of technology. That's unfortunate because obviously in Austria we have similar struggles with lack of installers. So I was.
Well, we're not missing only installers, we're missing a presentation now, right?
Yes.
No, but it's
well,
okay.
I think the presentation is hopefully easier to solve, but we'll see.
Yes?
Ah, yes, very good. Then we'll use the time to take a question. In the meantime, Alton has the mic and is on his way.
It was a question about the frozen slide that we were seeing before, so that was very timely for me. You mentioned that you need like 1,500 heating appliances per year in the moderate scenario, up to 2,000 something in the more aggressive one.
Yep.
And you also had this missing employees of around 1,500.
Yes.
If I divide those numbers, it means like one employee for one appliance, which doesn't seem very productive to me, but maybe I'm missing something. You can explain what's behind those numbers.
Yes, you're right. So you assume that those skilled workers also do other things than only heating appliances. So they tile your bath, they do spas, they do everything that has to do with like renewable energy sources in the heating sector. So that would be maybe the relation, that it's not one installer per heating system, of course, yeah. Still waiting for maybe a presentation, or?
Do we have an update?
Do we have an update? Still working? Okay.
Still working on it,
I mean,
excellent.
what I could continue and then I
Yeah.
show the pictures later.
Okay.
So you saw, okay, we have big subsidies, we have a shortage of installers, and in our region back in 2010, we had one of the first district heating installations, which back then we had a high share, or like we had a low price of oil, and so it was really tricky to actually motivate people to switch to another source. Is that? Oh no, my slides. Okay, thanks. So, thank you. And so we have this history, and we found back then, my colleague, he found 2 municipalities that actually wanted to start out and try it. And then from this one district heating system, pretty much, the word spread. And what we could do is we could show that it actually works, because like everything new, there's a lot of hesitancy. A lot of people are like, I don't believe this is really going to work. It's a lot of work that you have to put into a biomass district heating system. But what happened is the municipality did it. They actually found their own company, because they didn't have an energy utility to actually serve or provide the service. And what happened then is we came up with the name village heating, because in our region, I maybe didn't say it before, most of the towns are between 600 inhabitants and 20,000. We have like 6 big towns, and they have about 20,000 inhabitants. The rest is smaller. So, you know, like if you're talking about Munich, Vienna, it's a different game. But if you talk about a municipality that it is kind of like making ends meet with the needs and the bureaucracy that they have to deal with, they're probably not happy to have additional work. This is something we have to keep in mind. And eventually what happened is those 2 examples became the pilots that we could always do excursions to. And I really would like to show some pictures of this, because there's nice people. Let's see, no, it's not working yet. Every time we were able to say, let's do an excursion, let's look at that, because it already exists. And you also see that they are happy and smiling. You know what I mean? Like they have a good feeling with this. And that's seriously not something to underestimate, that this is important when you do local action. Here's the promised excursion videos, and what you see here is like they're handing over presents. This is the mayor of the pioneer town. This is the mayor of the town that was part of Replace, and now they have a district heating system. So this is how it works. He respects them. He says, okay, great, what you did with your whole municipality. I want to do something like this too in my municipality. And then here's the next mayor from another town coming in. What we see again is here, this guy. You will see him on a couple of pictures. Georg Miller. This guy, he runs a farm. He has lots of forest. He's also technical, very skilled. What he came up with is he founded a corporation which was called the Farmers That Bring You the Wood. And what he came up with is, because he's also the deputy mayor of a small little municipality, he asked all the neighboring municipalities, and there's only mayors on this picture, hey guys, we should come up with a collective corporation that we supply the wood and the heat and the grid to our citizens. Pretty astonishing. And then what you see here, this is him with his neighbors. If this guy would have not been a nice guy for the last 20 years, those guys wouldn't show up. And that's what I mean. Like, we have to incorporate the human aspect of heat. It's an essential part of our living. But you also have to have a good feeling and doing it with the right people. So these are the 7 municipalities that we came or worked with. And what you see here is like a typical district heating system. And maybe one word on the topic of biomass, heat pumps, wood sources. I think there's something important to take away from today as well. I think the mixture in the end is going to be the solution. You know, like we're kind of like fighting sometimes, is biomass better than heat pumps, or is the other one the better solution? I think the big advantage of those district heating systems is, okay, now there's a biomass boiler in here, but maybe in the future it could be hydrogen. Maybe in the future it could be a heat pump with some other sources. So there is a big chance we have a huge flexibility through those small grids. And of course, there has to be a technical part. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but there has to be a technical part, which is in our case pretty low standard, I would say. Because kind of like following Pareto, with like 80% precision, you get a lot already out of what the heat demand is. And the main aspect how to start your district is always finding the key accounts, finding the big energy demand or heat demand buildings and trying to get them on board. And then it's always good if the mayor, for example, is enthusiastic because he knows his guys, you know, and so he knows how to talk to them and to talk or to convince them that this is a good idea. Also, what we do is we do household surveys. So we ask the people, if you're okay with it, tell us how much energy demand you have. But usually it's like 30–40% that react to this, and then we have to interpolate the calculations. So what happens then is we usually do an analysis with GIS tools, and then we kind of like look where could a potential spot be where we put the district heating up. And together with the city council, municipal council, and also people that are engaged in the development of this, we come up with criteria. What criteria do we set for actually putting up the district heating? Where should it be? And then we have a decision support tool that actually shows exactly, okay, we have maybe 6 or 7 potential places where we're going to put the heating system, but there's one that's really sticking out, so let's go for this one in the first round. The tricky part is usually the business model, because there are many restrictions. As always, when you do something with renewables, there's restrictions that you have to follow. The big aspect is that you create a huge ownership, a local ownership of the heating market, which I think cannot be valued enough. If you remember the mayors standing there all together, they really believe that they have the heating market in their hands in the future. And that's, I think, something really important. Oftentimes, the municipality is also willing to invest, but is also restricted due to regulation. And if we say, okay, let's come up with a new company, a new entity, well, it is a new entity, so they don't have any financial records to show. They don't have like an old business model that they can rely to. So it's sometimes really hard to get funding for those. And the key factor would be that the one who's running this company in the future, who's going to supply you heat even in winter, even on Christmas, even on any other holidays. He has to be respected in the municipality and in the community. And also something that we see sometimes with this very enthusiastic start, people tend to actually make it cheaper as they can make it. So the price models, if you charge your neighbor something, it is a different thing than receiving a bill from a multinational corporation. They just say that's how it is and that's the money. But if you charge your neighbor, they will look at what car you drive. And they go like, oh wow, he's really making a fortune out of my heat, you know? So that is something to keep in mind and to really make sure that the price models are transparent, but also take the risks into account, because heating systems have to run for a long time. And then, once you have the business model ready, you know your players, you know the spot where you want to put the district heating, you do an informational event. And maybe a couple of years ago, this would be the time for like big debates. You know, biomass is not sustainable. How do you deal with this? And I see a lot of smoke coming out of the chimney. How can we deal with this? There's kids playing there. You can't put the heating system there. And all those kind of things come up. Lately, this changed. Lately, most of the questions were, where can I sign? Because I want to get rid of my gas supplier. And these are the key moments. This is where you actually get the atmosphere in the municipality. So you have to be well prepared. And then, once you create it, then you have to celebrate, of course. You have to put out, and that's really fun to see, it is very local based, you know, so they know all the people, they get the people together. There's maybe a local brewery that is giving out a barrel of beer. That's part of it, that's human, as I would say in this case. And it is important because that makes it into the news. And then we can spread the word again, and the next ones are going to call up, hey, that's a good idea. Maybe we can do also a district heating system in our region. So maybe that was a quick view in our regional activities. Yeah, I'm looking forward to your questions. And yes, thank you very much for bearing with me with all the technical difficulties.
Thank you for this inspiring talk, and you're right, we would have missed out on the pictures and all the amazing journeys that you actually did there. I think we have time for a question, and also welcome back everybody online. I see everything is working now, so that's good news. Any questions or comments? One at the back, we'll get the mic to you.
I was wondering whether you can provide some additional details about the biomass systems that you have installed in those pilot municipalities in terms of, for example, installed capacity, fuels used, and also about the technology. I guess being in the south of Germany, you have access to Austrian manufacturers or German manufacturers, and emission control measures, that would be.
Yeah. I think we have a lot of details about the specific, about the specific 7 projects that we portrayed here in our reports, and also maybe the range is really different. You know, sometimes it's just maybe 10 houses, sometimes it's like 40 houses, 80 houses. That's on. I think the biggest is 120 houses, plus hotels and public buildings. So the range is quite big. So from like, I think 150 kilowatt to I think 2 megawatt at one installation. So it always comes with a specific situation and the need there. Yeah. And most of the time there's also still a redundant system with like oil, for example, because of course Christmas has to be warm in case something runs down or something doesn't go. Yep.
Yes, one more question here at the front.
Yeah, during lunch we had also a discussion about when you have a district heating that you put in place, how do you convince people to connect, for example, who just had a new gas boiler 2-3 years ago, or yeah, sometimes it happens that your heating system would break down, but the district heating system is already planned. How do you bridge that period? Did you have specific arguments or specific, yeah, of course the local aspect and the yeah, people that know each other, but maybe some other arguments that worked well or solutions.
Yeah, that is often an issue, the time aspect on this whole thing. What we try to do is, once the decision is made that there should be a district heating system, then we try to make the plan how the system is going to develop over time transparent. Maybe on the municipal website that people can look up, okay, now maybe in 5 years they're going to be in my region. So I think that's a big thing. Of course, we sometimes have the question, oh man, I just put in my new gas, what should I do? And then we also have to say, leave it for now, because it is probably a very efficient system compared to the one you had. But once this one runs out, we still hope that the district heating is there. So you always have this problem of the moment when to put it in. Of course, we also have a list of mobile heating systems, like if it's just a few months, for example, then they can look it up, and then they say, okay, most of them are pretty expensive still, those mobile heating systems, so somebody really has to be dedicated to do it. And also funny is that Georg Miller, the person I told you about, he already has one of those that he rents out if somebody says, I really need one now. So we see that the market kind of or the market, let's put it, is serving those needs as well, but you can only do it for maybe a couple of months, maybe one winter, and not longer.
Yeah, just to comment, I think this is really important that you have this mobile system, because this is really a gap, or we were discussing during lunch that this is really something that now, if your system breaks down and you know the solution is coming, that you should have this availability of renting a system. But it's the first time I hear of a mobile heating system, so this is super interesting.
Yeah, also like the district heating system, it's a farmer actually who runs 6 of those district heating systems already in our region. He already has a mobile heating system as well for his systems, but also for people to rent it.
And who is the owner of the mobile heating system?
It's the farmer.
It's not the municipality or someone?
No. In this case, yeah.
Thank you very much. I think we will hear about that in the next